This week's genius recipe is for a vegan version of a traditional Oaxacan spread that kind of like sneaks in under the radar and makes everything taste so much better. So this recipe comes from this gorgeous Oaxaca cookbook that comes from Bricia Lopez and her family's restaurant Guelaguetza in LA. And the cookbook has the traditional version of Aciento in it, which is made traditionally with a whole lot of pork. It's rendered pork lard and chicharron, and it's this like amazing concoction that goes on things like tlayudas, which are the Oaxacan version of pizza, some people say, memelas, which we're going to be making later on. This Aciento like layers into all of those things and makes them taste great. But Bricia also includes a vegan version, which involves a handful of ingredients that all have very strong flavors and personalities, and you wouldn't think would come together in such a harmonious way, but they do. There's a whole bunch of nuts and seeds that are toasted nice and dark, and then a whole bunch of garlic that's fried in some fat that gets toasty and mellows it out. And those all blend together, and none of them really like speaks over the other one. They all kind of come together and make an incredibly rich and savory spread that you will want to put on all kinds of things. So we're going to show you those memelas in a bit, and we're also going to be calling Bricia because I have made the memelas exactly once and it was really, really fun, but I don't entirely know what I'm doing. And so she's gonna help give us some pointers on that so that hopefully you guys will feel more comfortable too. First thing, we need to melt this nonhydrogenated shortening in here. Yes, this looks like a lot, but we are doing the party-sized batch. We think that this could dress something like 150 to 200 memelas. So you could certainly scale this down. But at Food 52, we have a lot of people who are gonna eat it, so I might as well make the whole batch. This is just 2 to 3 minutes, very quick. Keep them moving because they will kind of get hot spots, and like the bottom half will turn brown faster than the top. You gotta keep flipping them around. Also, inevitably you're gonna have smaller cloves and they should just be fished out first if they start to get too dark. This is like putting our 5-2 bowls to the test. They're still frying in here. I'm gonna toast the nuts now. That just needs to cool off a little bit before it gets dumped into the food processor. Sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, and raw peanuts, which actually I think are blanched peanuts. But anyways, just they're not roasted already. If you can't find them and you can only find the roasted kind, just use that, but add it in towards the end because you're toasting right now. Don't want to over toast it, AKA burn it. You will smell good things and you'll know it's working and you can hear them. And also the pumpkin seeds will start popping out at you. Ooh, there, it's happening. These seeds are telling me it's time to move them on into the food processor. Okay, now it's time to actually make the Aciento, which is incredibly quick. There's all those toasted nuts and seeds. And those just get ground into a fine powder. You can almost feel it start to relax. It's like when it's all big and gritty, it's like vibrating a lot, and then as it gets finer and finer, it just feels right. Now the garlic and all that garlicky oil goes in. And the salt. And then this just needs to blend until it's totally smooth. All right. I think that's looking pretty peanut buttery, and it's going to thicken up a lot more as it cools. So I think it's time to make memelas. And first, it's time to call Bricia. Bricia, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Oh, of course. Thanks for calling.
I'm so excited. So first of all, I just want to show you what we've done so far. There's the Aciento, How does that look to you? Does the color look right?
It looks absolutely perfect. It looks like the real thing. And when I say the real thing is that we made a vegan version of the Aciento, which is pretty new age if you're from Oaxaca. I mean, I think out of every dish in Oaxaca, the least vegan dish of all is probably Aciento because it literally is not just pork fat, but also pork rinds and more pork fat and pork skin. So everything that has to do with the juiciness of pork is Aciento. So yes, it looks like a real Aciento.
Amazing.
But a real vegan Aciento too, if that makes any sense.
Yay. Okay, I'm so glad to hear that. So it really is the porkiest pork dish you could have.
There's a misconception about Aciento just being lard, and it's absolutely nothing like lard. Aciento is used not just to layer flavor, but also to add a little bit of crunch to some of our dishes like memelas and clayudas. Or just grabbing a piece of tortilla, slathering some Aciento and cheese on top and having it like a taco. And Aciento is an essential part of Oaxacan cooking. And we have always been trying to figure out a way to just not evolve, but to just change things up a little bit. And I took a trip to Oaxaca a few years back, and I went to a place and they were making vegan Aciento, and I didn't understand what that meant. And I asked more questions, and then when I came back to LA, my chef and I sort of recreated something that was similar and delicious, and now it's on our menu with our vegetarian clayuda.
Do you have a sense of why this works so well, this like combination of nuts and seeds and the garlic? Like how is it that creates the rich, complex flavor that's similar to a traditional Aciento?
You know, when you toast seeds and nuts, it's a completely different profile than when you have them raw. So I think with just roasting things, it makes a huge difference in any recipe, really. And I think that when you go back to Oaxaca cooking, even when you think of mezcal, I think when people think of mezcal, they think of a smoky tequila. And I always say that smoky is a wrong word and wrong definition of the profile. I think that the tasting profile of mezcal is more of a roasted agave rather than a smoked agave. Maybe our palate isn't used to having that much roast together, that the only thing we can identify it with is with, I guess, pork fat. I don't know.
Well, you're so right. It really does marry beautifully. And I'm just kind of astonished at how none of the ingredients kind of shouts out over the other ones. It doesn't taste like a garlic spread or like a, I don't know, sunflower seed butter or something like that. It really does taste like a whole new thing.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm a fan of Aciento. I think I had some Aciento for breakfast this morning. I don't shy away from fat whatsoever, but I do think that it's okay to have alternatives here and there. And this is one recipe that lives in my personal fridge often. We serve them on top of clayudas. Our clayudas are big, large corn tortillas that we bring from Oaxaca. And also memelas, which memelas are smaller tortillas, a little thicker, but smaller in size. That's like clayuda. Clayuda is probably about 13 to 14 inches wide. And the memelas are your average tortilla size, about 6 to 8 inches. And we put a layer of Aciento, we put cheese and salsa, and that's it.
So I guess we should make some memelas. We have the masa dough that we made from the flour you recommended, the masa harina from Bob's Red Mill, as a good accessible alternative if you don't have access to fresh masa. I have here, I'll show you, this is the masa that we made.
Yes.
This is the tortilla press.
Okay.
With this, I could use your pointers, I think. I'm just gonna set you down here.
My trick is to grab a large Ziploc bag, maybe the ones from the freezer, like the big gallon ones, and then just cut the edges so you can have two perfectly symmetrical pieces of plastic. Put one half down, the memela, and then the other piece of plastic on top, and then press. You turn it, and then you press it again, lightly, and that should be enough.
So how thick do you think it should be roughly? Like quarter inch thick?
Let me see. A little bit less than a quarter inch.
Okay.
I think you can probably press it just a little bit more. Just a tad. You don't want it to be as thin as a tortilla, but you also don't want to make it like a gordita, which is really thick. That's good.
Okay. And by the way, this is a good time to point out, this is the masa harina that we used, that we just basically mixed in hot water and let it sit for an hour. And it made that beautiful ball of dough. If I didn't have a tortilla press, what would you recommend doing? Just rolling it out like with a rolling pin or by hand?
So when you're rolling it, don't roll it directly on top of the dough. You want to roll it on top of the plastic. When you're making flour tortillas, you can definitely do that because the flour is different, the texture is different, but with masa and with corn, you want to do it over plastic.
Okay, I'm just gonna throw it in this skillet and I'm gonna take you with me.
Yes, and you want to make sure you put it in a hot skillet. So make sure that the skillet is already hot. Don't ever put it over a cold skillet.
This is so much fun to have you here with me. Like it was really fun doing it on my own last night, but this is so much better.
Now, when you graduate, you won't need that. You'll just do it with your hands.
Yeah, that's not today.
When you turn it around, you want to press on the top, maybe give it 5 taps all around. That's good. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Actually, to be honest with you, I don't know why we do that. But what I've seen happen is that when you tap it, it tends to kind of inflate a little bit.
Oh.
And that's sort of like your cue that you made a great tortilla, kind of when it starts inflating a bit.
I'm just gonna take it off now and do the shaping part.
Now for the next part,
Yes.
You're gonna pinch it around the circumference because you're new and you're starting. I would grab a wet towel and do it because it could be hot inside.
Okay. Make those ridges look nicer too. Because I can like really get in there.
And then pinch it inside. Do a few pinches inside the tortilla.
Oh, okay.
So you do in the circumference, and then you pinch a few in the middle.
Okay. So this is what I've got.
Perfect. Now do a few in the middle.
Okay.
I would say like 5. Oh, that's great. That looks nice.
Yay! Aciento goes on now, right?
Yeah. Yes, it goes on now that it's hot.
Okay. And just like a thin smear?
Very thin layer. Put it back in the griddle, and then that way it'll kind of heat it up a little bit, just like a tad, and then sprinkle the cheese on top.
Okay. This already smells so good, and I cannot wait to eat it.
You made a salsa. You could put the salsa on top right now, and wait for the cheese and salsa to bubble. Take it off the griddle and just eat it. Or you can also take it off, put veggies on top, put a salsa on top, and eat it that way. It just depends on what you're feeling that day.
Perfect. Well, for now, I think I'll just do the straight Aciento and the cheese just to really appreciate the fact that I just made a memela all by myself. Not all by myself.
You did.
I just made a memela with my own hands with a lot of help from you.
No, it's fine. You did it all by yourself. You can become a memela master. But yeah, that's it. You're done. You did it.
Wow.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Congratulations on your first memela.
Thank you so much. I could not have done it without you. And
Awesome.
Your amazing recipes in this book.
Well, thanks for cooking from the book, and I hope everyone at Fukutu loves it and everyone watching gets a copy.
Thank you. I just made a memela and I'm so proud of myself, and I'm so grateful that Bricia talked me through all of that, and I hope that you will feel confident doing it too because it is so much fun. It's going to be so tasty. So this, just to remind you, we have the memela that we just made, the vegan Aciento spread out of the toasted nuts and seeds and garlic. Then to stay in the spirit of the veganness, we have some vegan cashew cheese on top. And then this is watercress. Bricia likes to use purslane because she's in LA and has access to so much better produce than we do in New York right now. And it's still warm, so I need to eat it immediately. There is just nothing like this. The feeling of biting into your own memela that you have made, getting these whiffs of corn and warm, like slightly tender, soft insides, crispy bottom, these cool ridgy edges, and then your vegan Aciento melting into all of it, and then the salty bits of cheese and the greens is just such an amazing thing. And I highly, highly recommend that you try it yourself. For more genius recipes like this every single week, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel, and go to Bricia's family's restaurant, Gala Getza in LA, and pick up a copy of this stunning cookbook, Oaxaca. It has so many great recipes like this, traditional and new age, like Bricia said, and beautiful stories and photos of all of the deliciousness that Oaxaca has. I'll see you next week.